Okay, I am waiting for LinkedIn to pick it up. Here we go.
Hi, I'm John Maxwell. When the top companies in the world are looking for trainers, speakers, and coaches, there's one name that stands above the rest, and that's Maxwell Leadership. Our certified team members have gotten proven results for companies all over the globe, and our reputation, I'm proud to say, is second to none. Some of our members have risen to the top of their profession, including the one you're going to meet today. I proudly introduce you to my friend Bob Fabian Zinka.
Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If you need to develop into a better leader, this podcast is for you. If you want to achieve a greater level of success, this podcast is for you. His mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell, said it best: everything rises and falls on leadership. We hope to inspire you today and provide you with an insight that has the potential to positively impact the trajectory of your life. Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Coach Busy. Thank you so much for being here. This is the very first episode of season 4. Yesterday, I did the trailer, and now I am so excited to have somebody with me. Just like me, is a Maxwell Leadership Certified Coach. So he's got serious experience in leadership, and he can pretty much share clues and principles that will potentially change your life. So that's Enrique Acosta Gonzalez. And I'm going to switch over to the screen here. You should already have access to his LinkedIn page. Here he is, and he is the CEO of Triad Leadership Solution. And he is also an author of an upcoming book, which should be published soon, I believe next month. And your book is going to be this one here. Hold on. Here we go. So the book will be Latinos 100: Living Our Legacy and Inspiring the Next Generation. So he's been in the Navy for more than 20 years, business leader, and like I said, he has a whole lot of experience in leadership. And we're going to be diving into his transition from military to civilian leadership, the power of mentorship and heart-centered leadership, how veterans can leverage their unique strength in business and beyond, and also his advice for aspiring leaders in every field. As you know, my passion is about the aspiring military and tech leaders. So with no further ado, here is Enrique. How are you doing, sir?
Good, BZ. Nice to be with you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I am so glad you are here. So we are definitely from the same clan. We both certified by John Maxwell and his team. And on Wednesday, day after tomorrow, I will be interviewing Chris Robertson, who is this executive vice president. I'm sure he was one of your faculty mentor as well. So I'm very glad to have you there. And another thing we have in common is we both have served in the U.S. Navy. So if you can tell us about your leadership journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you once again, BZ, for having me on the show. It is a pleasure to share my journey. So, Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, born Puerto Rico, raised in the Bronx, New York, and then after high school, back in Puerto Rico, decided that the military was it, and I joined the Navy. Now, that was a byproduct of being kind of pushed away from the Air Force, as I didn't cut the mustard, I guess, in their testing score. And the Navy received me. They put me into the meteorology and oceanography community, which I was in for 26 years. rose to the ranks of E8 as a command senior enlisted leader or command senior chief, and then exited, gracefully after 26 years and decided that, hey, why waste all my leadership knowledge that I gained while in the military? And I decided to create Triad Leadership Solutions as a leadership consulting and coaching entity, right? So that's my current position now.
Wow, that is amazing. And you know what? When I joined the Navy, actually, before I go there, so you said you tried to go to the Air Force and then you got into the Navy. Did you try going to the Marines and the at the time the sorry, and the Army also?
No, no, I knew that that side of service I did not want to be part of. There
Okay.
is a calling, right? There's a calling for those folks, and I'm
Yes.
glad that all that answer that call go. That
Good.
left me an opportunity to go to the Navy. No, I was
With,
actually looking for, and then you realize that afterwards that
mhm.
that it is available. But I was looking for the STEM fields.
Yes.
In school,
Science,
I was high in
technology.
science and math,
Hmm.
and so when I was going for the Air Force was, to be in the STEM community,
Awesome.
and the Navy provided that avenue, and so I stood there.
Outstanding. And what was the main reason why you wanted to join? Because I know people join for all kind of different reasons, but what was your
Well,
primary motivation?
well, I had a foundation already laid through high school. I was part of the
Yes.
junior ROTC program.
Oh, nice.
So I already had kind of like a taste of what that would look like.
Hmm.
A secondary thing was that I was in Puerto Rico and that things weren't all that well, right?
Yes.
They were not, the community wasn't well, the environment wasn't good, and I
Mm,
needed a way to continue to progress. And I did not see that opportunity there where I was.
yes.
And that also, kind of helped me to continue to push and get into service and potentially, leave and go abroad, which I did.
Wow, that is wonderful. For me, I joined in 2004. Actually, I tried to join after 9/11, but at the time I wasn't a US citizen and didn't have my green card. So I talked to all four branches. They all asked me to go Pakistan, which was fine. But that's when I realized, like you, the Army and the Marine, God bless them, that's not for me. But it was either the Air Force or the Navy because we tend to use a lot of our brain, right? Sort of our muscles. It's really a lot of no. If you want to do things with computers, technology, this kind of things. Definitely, I highly recommend that. Now, for those watching us, especially young people, maybe getting out of high school or college, I highly recommend you join the service. No, even the army and the marines. That is fine too. But even if you only do it for a couple of years, I think it's gonna be great for you. You're definitely gonna learn about leadership. And if not going on active duty, you could also consider the reserve or the National Guard. I think it's really a great privilege to be able to serve your country. Now, another thing I must say about the Navy, my daddy always told me, right, what location is to real estate is really what leadership is to the services, especially when you become a senior enlisted and an officer. It's all about leadership. So that's something that's really going into us from the get and go. Is there anything else you would like to share, kind of about your leadership journey and what you've learned either through the Navy or the leadership consultancy business you have now?
Yeah, I'll share some of that, but let me just be mindful that there is Coast Guard and Space Force, right? So you can do that if the other branches are not available, and they all serve both intellectually and physical in one way or another, right? So for those that are listening, you will be in good hands wherever you go and choose to serve. Now, in terms of leadership, my journey, and you mentioned that you had followed John Maxwell since you were 16. I believe I was already in the military then. Uh, but when I joined in 1989, I already had heard whispers because I grew up in the church about John Maxwell and his program within the church. And so I had already in the early 90s been following him from the church perspective, right? From his faith-based perspective and his leadership. And he grew the John Maxwell leadership into what it is today from that bed, right? That foundation. And I decided early on that leadership would be something that I studied. And now I consider myself a leadership practitioner. A lot of folks want to
Mhm.
say they're experts, they're this, and the other. No, I practice it so that I can hone it and then, try
Yeah.
to make it alive in me. And so my first 3 years in the military were faced with an individual that was a high level individual in the enlisted ranks. He was my command senior enlisted leader, and for some reason or another, at this point, it kind of just blows my mind. He did not like the way I spoke. And like I told you, I'm from Puerto Rico. I grew up in the Bronx, and so I must have had an accent. And I understand that we all do. If you go to the Bronx, typically you pick out people that are from New York or not. And so for some reason or another, he chose that. Hey, I don't really like this guy's way of speaking, and so he challenged me all 3 years. And from that, I said, number one, I cannot have anyone from this point forward suffer the things that I did. And number two, how can I be the best person in terms of speaking and using the spoken word as a tool and sometimes weapon? I will tell you that I would not have to go through this ever again. And so that is really what pushed me down the leadership road and perfecting who I was and what I represented, and ensuring that I was not that type of senior enlisted leader
Hmm.
that would devour, their young, right? And
Yes.
so that's how all of that got started way back in the early 90s.
Wow, that is amazing. As you know, in the Navy, the senior enlisted rank, they wear khaki, E7 and above, they are the chiefs. And in my humble opinion, they run the Navy. I think we officers take glory for all of the hard work, all of the chiefs do. And thank you so much for being a senior chief in the US Navy. You really are the anchor. But only of all of the thousands of chiefs I've had to encounter, especially when I was enlisted, maybe only one or two were kind of bad chiefs. I wonder how in the world did they earn their anchor, because they didn't like their sailors at all. No, most chiefs I've seen like you really love your people. You really do everything you can to give them all of the resources they need to succeed, and you develop them into leaders and eventually to replace you when you retire and all of that. So your experience, though, being from Puerto Rico, being in the Navy now, I believe the Navy is probably one of the most diverse organizations I've ever been a part of. And I think we've improved a lot from back in the days, but I feel like we still have room for improvement, especially if you are Black, Mexican, Puerto Rican, or a woman in this Navy. It is not always easy. I think, again, in my 20 plus years experience, it's got better and better and better. But there were definitely times where I felt like, yeah, some people, they didn't like me because of my accent, because I was born in another country, because I'm Black, or for whatever reason. And part of the reason why I wanted to become a better leader, just like you, is to really show the people who come after me what leadership looks like, right? What it means to really care for people and support them, regardless of where they come from. And so, how would you define leadership?
Well, I think that we will always go to the standard Maxwell
Yes,
definition of influence, right?
yeah,
But
right here.
I'll tell you, right, and
Yeah.
it is leadership without influence is not leadership. It
Mhm.
is coercion. Right? You have to force somebody to do something if you have not influenced them in a way that they will naturally follow you and do the things that would you're asking them to do. And so that's why, in terms of Maxwell, the influence is a key factor. But I'll tell you that a leader that does not know themselves can't accurately and truthfully lead anyone else. And so, in terms of leadership, which I tell most people, if you aim to lead, then ensure that you know how to lead yourself. And if you cannot do that, then take a step back, get that done, and or continuously do it, because we're always learning more about it, ourselves. Continuously do it where you're not being a false leader or a leader in a position only, and not by winning the hearts of the people and allowing them to freely follow you, right? So that's my take, a long take there, but I believe
Well,
that that's as accurate as I can put it.
absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more because many people, especially when they're young, they feel like being a leader is your title, right? And I guess even Dr. Maxwell teaches, no, that's the lowest form of leadership possible, right?
Right.
Because if you have a title, you have a CEO, you have a manager of a director, yeah, you can fire me. So I'm going to do whatever you say. So I give you a position of leadership, but again, it's following you just because I have to, not because I want to. And one thing I've really learned in the Navy, most of the skippers, the leaders I've had, those are people I would almost follow anywhere. And as you know, in the Navy, we get paid a lot less than they do in the industry, for similar skills and experiences. But
Right.
I've never heard of anybody at IBM or Google or Microsoft who says, I'm willing to die for you. I've never seen that. But every day in the Navy, the person to my right, to my left is willing to do that for me. And that's really, really huge. So being able to follow, even all the way to the point where they sacrifice their own life if they have to. I mean, that's real influence right there. It is quite amazing. Anything else you'd like to add, Enrique?
Yeah, and you mentioned the military, and some people think that that's just the case. There have been stories of wartime where some people have walked away from others, and so it's it's a sad thing to know that that would even be the case within the military, but that goes to show you how true leadership is valued, how people are looking for folks that they can gladly put their life on the line for, and would do it any day, right? And so the majority of folks in the military will do that, but there are some instances where the leaders are so bad that they might just say deuce and walk the other way. And it's a sad setup and a sad scenario. But people are people, regardless whether they are in the military or out in the civilian world. We are people at the base, right?
Yes. Yes, that is very, very sad and unfortunate. But in my own experience, I've seen very, very few
Yes.
of those. No organization, no system is perfect. But I think in the Navy specifically, we try to get rid of those people because they just do not belong. Try to make sure they don't get promoted or be in a position of authority and responsibility. Because the selection process we have is not, again, it's not perfect, but it's one of the best one I have ever seen. I was very fortunate last year. I sat on the selection board for O4. So all of the O3s in the entire Navy Reserve, I was one of the 9 members who's decided if they're going to get promoted or not. And part of the things we did is to look at their experience as an O1, as an O2, as an O3, their record, their qualification, and also the way they led when they were on active duty or deployment. But anyway, yes, it's very, very important. And it's really part of the reason why I have this podcast. I call it the Leadership and Success Podcast. I started this 3 seasons ago, so 3 years ago, and now I also have a daily leadership, excellence, and accountability devotion. I write every single day. Again, my focus is for the aspiring leaders in both the military and technology. But really, like you said earlier, it applies in any any field. Now, I'd like to start the best part of my conversation now, the 7 questions I ask. If there is anything you'd like to share before we get into the 7 question, let me know. And just so that you know, I got all of the 7 questions from Papa John. He's the one. He's very very famous in Atlanta. He takes people to lunch for an hour, and he really wants to know the answers to this question, and he takes notes. So that's where I got the idea from. Anything you want to share before we start with the 7 questions of leadership?
No, no. Go ahead. Let's go.
Fantastic. Okay, question number 1. What is the greatest lesson you have learned? Greatest leadership lesson?
The greatest leadership lesson is that you can fake leadership. You can fake it. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing that just right now.
Hmm.
But faking it will only last you but so long. And then
Ah,
the truth comes out. And for those leaders that are faking it, you know you're faking it. You can actually gain a hold of the rest of your life if you just
mhm.
say, you know what, I'm not going to do that no more. I need help, and I need it desperately, and I'm going to get it. And no one's going to, frown on that. No one probably will probably cheer you because you've come to a point where you realize that faking typically causes harm to those that you are leading. And sometimes those people know already, right?
Yes.
But yeah, that was a hard lesson, and one that I realized that, yeah, you could fake this thing.
Yes, and that's very, very sad. And I agree with you. I think people always know. If a boss really cares for you, or like, many times they would say, how are you doing? And when you start saying how you feel, okay, next, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. Like they just focus on the work and not the people. No, like we've learned in the Navy, right? Mission first, but what? People always.
Always.
So, and people know it if you don't prioritize them in any meaningful way. I guess that's what makes Papa John's leadership sad, especially in the last 5 years or so in our country. I think there's been a lot of things happening where leaders don't always do what they are supposed to do, which is that's why I think I wrote an article. I think 5 years ago about the difference between a boss and a leader. Right? Usually, a boss they want you to work for me, so you're gonna do something for my own betterment, my own enrichment. I'm going to use and abuse you. But the leader, I'm going to serve you, right? I'm going to show you the way forward. And that's exactly what Dr. John Maxwell teaches. And that's what all of us teach. And that's really what we aspire to, leading and not bossing people around. So what would you say is the secret to your success? You've got your own company now. You had a great career in the Navy and all of the lives you are touching right now. And I see that you volunteer quite a bit too. So what's the secret of your success, you think?
Yeah, the secret is truth. I lead
Mm.
with truth, and I lead in truth. And truth is the basis and foundation of my leadership. If it's not true, then it's not being done. And that's been it. And people appreciate that,
Mm.
because one thing that you can do as a leader that could really be detrimental is to live in and lead in lies. Now, people
Yes.
do not appreciate that. Now, they may have a challenge with lying or sharing lies, but they don't appreciate a leader that leads that way. And
Yes.
so you
Mm.
that's where you see the major pain points of most people in corporate or in private, is that they have leaders that lead in the midst of lies.
Wow.
And so that has been my biggest gain, is that I embrace truth, and I live it, and I lead by it.
Wow, that is awesome. Yeah, because eventually it will always catch up with you,
Oh
time
yeah.
and time again. Yeah. Wow. So what is the greatest leadership advice you have ever received?
The greatest that I've received is to not be afraid of telling truthfully the things that you're doing.
Mm.
In leadership, we kind of encourage, humility, right? And John is,
Yes.
yeah, you want to be a humble leader. You don't want to be a haughty leader,
Mhm.
but you also don't want to be in the shadows leader, right? For
Yes.
the sake of humility. And I was like that. I would do a lot of things in the shadows. And then, in the military, that's not going to work because what are you going to put on the eval,
Yes.
right? And so a master chief, Mark Schaefer, he says, "Hey, Enrique, man, you done a lot, and nobody knows about it.
Mhm.
Nobody." And he says, "I understand, your faith-based background kind of pushes you to humility, but that's not going to work here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just not going to work. You're going to be doing all of that. No one will ever know, and you'll never get credit for it."
Yeah.
And I was one that I thought, don't let your right hand know what your left hand doing type of stuff. And
Yes.
and then I embraced it and just made sure that it was truthful,
Mhm.
but that whatever I did was brought to light so that
Yes.
others can kind of celebrate with me, but
Mhm.
at the same time be aware that, hey, this brother's doing this and that, and so
Yes.
that counts for this and that, and it
Absolutely.
sure did help me as I was going through the ranks, into senior enlisted leaders.
Yes, showing your impact and also encouraging others to come out of the shadows and to follow your example.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know in my experience, no great leaders, even when I had the opportunity to become a commanding officer, whenever anybody in your command does something great, as the CEO, you take credit automatically, right? But I always made sure to share the credit with them or show who actually did the work, and then the entire unit would share credit. But then, if any of my people did something very, very bad, then I would take the full responsibility. All right, so I think that's what it means to lead. You have to find those people within your organization who are kind of timid, who don't want to get credit for what they do, but really, I think elevate them and put the spotlight on them. And
Mhm.
anyway, that's part of the reason why I have another newsletter, and I believe you're going to be featured this Friday. I call it Friend in the Spotlight. So out of the 30,000 people I have on LinkedIn, I like to put the spotlight on somebody else for an entire week. I want to tell everybody on my network who you are, what you've achieved, and what you bring to the table, because this is very, very important in life to be able to do that. Definitely something I learned in the Navy for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Yes,
Mhm.
actually, when I was a, seaman recruit, it was a chief in my command who actually showed me how to do my eval and taught me how to brag on the things I did. Because it's true, if it's not
Yeah,
in your record, it doesn't exist, right? So
never
you will
happened.
never get credit for that. Wow, that is quite powerful. So, question number two: what are you learning now? I know Papa John always says, "No, leaders are readers, we are learners." So, what are you learning these days?
Yeah, I'm learning these days that things can become monotonous.
Mm,
You know, it's easy to just lay back and watch things happen. There's a lot happening in our nation. Uh,
yes.
and it's very easy to say, "Nah, I'm not gonna, not gonna be
Hmm.
partaking in none of that. I'm not gonna be talking about that." And I think that we do a disservice to our country, our fellow citizens, when we
Hmm.
don't take a stand on something, right? We don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for anything, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that you need to be an activist, or out in front of the the, the stairs of the Capitol building,
Yes.
but you must be sure that you have an understanding of what's going on and where you lie.
Yes.
Because if not, then we will be a nation, they say, that has lost the want to, you
Mm.
know, has lost
Wow.
the want to. I have a young man that I mentor, and I asked him about serving.
Yes.
He says, "Do you think our nation is worth serving now?"
Hmm.
And I said, "What?" He says, "Look at this
Wow.
mess. You think that I want to give my life for that?"
Hmm.
He's young. I'm like, teens.
Wow.
And I said, "Oh my Lord." Because me and you came from a different era.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
didn't have to ask me to join. I was going.
Yes.
Um, but our world and nation is different. And
Hmm.
there are some youth and teens that see it differently. This particular one just kind of floored me
Wow.
because I was looking at it and I said, man, I gotta admit the dude's right. What
Wow.
he's seeing right now,
Hmm.
it's tough. It's tough to swallow. So
Yes.
yeah, you could things can become monotonous. Things get, but we have to fight that. We have to fight the monotony.
Thank you so much for sharing. And from what you said, so people really need to know who they are, what they stand for, what their core values are. You and me being in the Navy for more than 20 years, it's been drilled into us.
Oh
Honor,
yeah.
courage, commitment. Right,
Yeah.
those are my personal core values. That's what I stand for. And what do you think the average person, or like the young men like the one you are mentoring, aspiring leaders, they need to do to figure out what they really stand for, what those principles are, right? Because one thing that kind of concerns me a little bit. You will see it in the country like back in 2020, like for example, diversity was really big. Everybody wanted to do diversity as a performance. Oh, we're gonna spend so much money and invest. And yes, Black, like Latino, they're important. But today it's like, no, they're not important at all. We were lying to you. We don't stand on anything because the political shift is changing. Therefore, they really don't stand on anything. All they want is whatever is popular, whatever is trending. So in this society, what do you advise people should do to really figure out what they really stand for, so that it doesn't matter what the political shifts and winds are, they know who they are and they can stand in their integrity.
Yeah, I have always encouraged mentorship, right? I've always
Yes.
encouraged it because there are others that have gone before you that can kind of fill you in on the substance of what is really happening, right? And I don't know how these next few years are going to impact, but that period will end, right? There's going to be another election and there's going to be changes and things like that. So I would encourage a young person not to focus on what they see right now, but in totality, right? Look at the
Yes.
totality of our nation and look at the totality of what it can afford you, your future family, your current family.
Yes.
Because I'll tell you, I did go serve, hey, and I'm a Cold War veteran. I can't believe that, right? I
Hmm.
came in at the very tail end of the Cold War. So I got a certificate that said that first Iraq War,
Yeah.
Kosovo,
Global
second
war.
Iraq,
Hmm.
Afghanistan. I my career spans a lot of wartime,
Yes.
and it still didn't shake me in terms of whether I was going to serve or not. Uh, but this, what we see now, is all more internal, right? The war is
Mhm.
internal now. So don't look at what's happening in terms of like right now. Look at the totality and
Mm.
look at what kind of impact you can have,
Yes.
because it may not be service, right? It may not be service, but what impact can you have to bring about a positive outcome
Mm.
to your world, right? Because my world and BZ, your world, although they kind of crossed each other in different ways, they're still two worlds,
Yes.
right? And so, what can you do in your world with your capacity and with your knowledge to influence a positive change and start there? And I think
Wow.
that if we all did that, we'd be in a nice place.
That is powerful because sometimes people think it's so insignificant what one person can do, but you
Oh
can
yeah.
really change your world. And
Hmm.
by doing so, again, you give permission to other people to do the same. And when you add it all up, eventually it can have a big, big effect. That is powerful. So, what is the greatest investment you have made in yourself throughout your career?
Coaches.
Yes.
Good goodness. Um, you don't know what you don't know, but a coach understands that you know a lot. Right? We might not have all of the information necessary, but we have enough. The thing is that it's like in pieces all over in our head and all over in our timeline of life. There are pieces, and coaches, as I am one, they we can help you put all those together and help you realize that you do have what it takes and you do have the knowledge necessary and you do have the capacity for this, that, and the other. But
Wow.
without it, we're floating on, we're floating by ourselves. And there's a lot you could do alone, right? The old adage of, you want to go fast, you go along, you want to go far, you
Good to
got to
know.
get somebody. And
Yes.
so a fast life will lead to burnout, but when you have somebody, they kind of mitigate things so that you can go the long way, and that's really where you want to go.
Wow, that is powerful. Now, one thing that Dr. Maxwell teaches, most people when they look at leaders, they only look at the bright side. Oh, they've done so much, accomplished so much. And I look at all of your work for podcasting, your business, and all of that. Wow, it almost feels like you walk on water. But the truth is, you've had some failures as well, right?
Oh yeah.
So, how has failure shaped your life? In my own experience, it seems like I learned the most through failure than I do through my successes. So, has that failure shaped yours?
Yeah, so I often say failure is a door. That's all it is. And when failure as a door does not open, there's there's a ton of other doors, right? So don't look at it in a way of, man, you're keeping me from what I'm trying to get. A failure as a door is keeping you from something that may be too bad for you. And so sometimes we think that that door, that's the one that I need to open, and it's locked shut, and you trying to figure out, what can I do? Do I put some TNT on this? Do I get some bars to open this thing? Sometimes those failures are meant to save you. And if you succeeded in that one thing, it probably be your demise, right? So look at failures as doors, and appreciate the fact that they didn't open for you, because the
Mm.
one that is for you will, and then you can keep on going.
That is powerful. And in my experience, I've seen so many people, they kind of get paralyzed when they fail or they face certain circumstances. One of my mentor called it paralysis by analysis. Sometimes it's like just too much to do that you
Mhm.
just don't do anything, you just freeze. What is one fear, one of your greatest fears that you were able to overcome?
My One of my greatest fears was, and it goes back to the reason why I lead with truth. One of my greatest fears was that people would realize that the person I had created was created, and it wasn't me. And it goes back to the first 3 years. I created a persona, a person, and that's who I showed until it just got too much. It got too heavy. And then I realized that I had lost years trying to create somebody that I thought people wanted to see versus kind of refining myself so that they got who I was. And So, a day came when my wife was like, hey, you're this way and this thing, and you're that way and that way, and that can't continue. And I said, okay, yeah, we have to fix that.
Wow.
And then that's when I started on my journey with truth, and
Wow.
it's been the best since.
That is really awesome. Authentic leadership, being the same person in public as you are in private. That is very, very powerful. Wow. So, question number 4 now. Who do you know that my audience and I should know? Who are some of your mentors or thought leaders, people that you are following that might be uh, good to know?
Yeah, I have a good buddy of mine. I love him to death, Alex Ramos, and you can look him up on LinkedIn. He has a wonderful leadership approach, and if you see Alex raising a helmet, don't think he's crazy. He's got a purpose with that. But I love the brother, and he is definitely one you need to know.
Wow, that is great, Alex Ramos. And I'm gonna get his LinkedIn profile and I'm gonna add it to the comments. And one thing I like about the LinkedIn Live is it stays there forever as a replay, so
Mhm.
people can go back, listen to it, and look at the comment. Thank you so much for sharing that. So in that same vein, if you had 3 people to choose from, you would like to have dinner with, whether alive now or even people who are dead from history, 3 people to have dinner, who would you choose and why?
Yeah, number one would be Jesus Christ. That's I would love to have dinner with him. Um, there's a there's an announcement going on, but anyway, Jesus is one. Um, President Barack Obama.
Are you still there?
I am. I'm still
Okay,
here. Yeah, I'm
good.
still here. Let me make sure that
Okay, I
always.
can hear you perfectly well.
Yeah, I'm still here. Sometimes the camera will go off in one way or another, but
Okay, you are
it
back.
should be back
Fantastic.
on.
Yes. We
Yeah,
talk about
sorry about
Jesus
that.
Christ and President
Yeah,
Obama.
President Barack Obama. And I don't mention God because one day I will be, right? So, but and my mom.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, my mom.
Great. No, that is quite powerful, and I think I know why you would choose those 3. It's pretty amazing. Is there something about your mother that you can share with the audience why you would like to have that one uh, conversation with her again?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, when COVID took over the world, it also took my mom. So
Yeah.
back in 2000 and 2021.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's been over 4 years,
Yes.
and it's one of those losses that you reflect on later on, and you're like, man, yeah, I can't believe it happened. And since it happened that way so abruptly during that time, you wasn't able to
Yes.
see them. It was cremated. It basically, I knew my mom was sick and she goes in the hospital and then I never see her
Hmm.
again. Right.
Wow.
So
So
it was
so
it was a tough loss, for everybody too, right? And
yes.
I remind and I'm mindful that a lot of people went through that particular way.
Yes, actually, this is another thing we have in common. My mother died July 2021, partly because of COVID. She was in Africa, where I am originally from, and then she was in France with my brother. And the idea was to come to America. Actually, I just bought a brand new house, and I had the room set up for her on the first floor, everything ready to go. But with COVID, she couldn't fly, and then she passed away. And yeah, she was my hero. And yeah, I wish I could have even just 5 more minutes with
Yeah.
her. But yeah, but it's also makes you kind of put things in perspective, right? Because I live here in Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay Area. Prior to COVID, no, we're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week every week, like work, 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 work. And even when we take time off and vacation, most companies I work for, they say it's unlimited vacation. I mean, you can be on vacation for 11 months in the year if your boss is okay with it. No problem. We don't count. But nobody ever takes vacation. And
Right.
anytime I took vacation, people look at you like cross eyes, like, what is
Yeah.
wrong with you going on vacation when we have so much work to do, right? But really, COVID and my mom passing away, it just gives you some perspective on life. What is very important? It's not chasing after money. It's not working 60 hours a week and not being home with your wife and your kids, and because you can get all of this money, all of these things, but if you don't have anybody left to share that with. And I know life as a soldier, as a sailor, is pretty tough too. You always deployed, always out, and for some of us, right, by the time you end your career, your wife has left you, and your kids don't know who you are, and it can be a real challenge. And those are things you definitely need to prioritize in life, right now. Uh, anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a thing. You will be faced with some circumstances in life that will kind of put you in a position where you have to reevaluate, and that
Yeah.
period in the world's life, you got to say,
Yes.
it's afforded all of us an opportunity to do that. Now, what have you done since then? Have you
Yes.
gone back to your old habits? Did you make some changes?
Hmm.
But as you had asked before, what are you learning? Just continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to adjust. As long
Yes.
as you are breathing, you have an opportunity. It's when you're done, you're done. But as long as
Mm.
you're breathing, you have an opportunity to do so. So take advantage of it.
Yeah, that is so powerful. I know we are running out of time. Can you give me another 10, 12 minutes, or you have to
I'm
go?
good. I'm good, brother.
I'm really having a great time talking with you. It's like mind. I can't believe we've never done this before. It's like we have so much in common, you and I. So number five. So what have you read that we should read? Which book or books you would recommend to my audience right now?
So there have been several, but there's one that I always every time somebody asks me this, Catching Leadership, Michael Leadham, uh, Leytem,
I can
and
leadership.
it's called Catching Leadership. I
Catching leadership.
enjoyed that book so much, and every time someone asks me, that's the first one that I think of. And you could also follow him on LinkedIn, uh, and and purchase his book.
Wow, thanks. Do you have a second book you would recommend?
Yeah, there's a second one.
And
let me
I am trying to
see.
find Catching Leadership on Amazon. I'm sure I'm gonna find it in just a second. Yeah, got it.
Oh yeah, you'll find it. So there was, oh my goodness, I'm trying to think specifically about.
And I'm going to share the screen here. Let me see. Oh, so you can go ahead. While you are talking, I'm
Yeah.
I'm, I'm gonna show the
So
screen.
there's
Catching
another
Leadership will share.
one. Yeah, there's another one by uh, Daryl Bryant, and it's called Engage, Lead, Deliver. I
Hmm,
really enjoyed that book as well. And it's
very good.
for, early leaders, folks that are um, trying to start off in leadership. He did a great job in presenting that journey there.
Wow, this is Fantastic. Yeah, I've got this book here, Catching Leadership. Do you see it on
Oh
your
yeah,
screen?
that's it.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna add all of those again in the comments. I think it's good for people to see. Oh, just is this the Alex Ramos you were talking about? Because I'm connecting to this guy. He was in the Navy. I'm hoping it's the same one, but if not, I'm gonna wait for your link. I don't know why my computer's a little bit slow right now. I mean, I'm supposed to have one of the fastest internet connection in Silicon Valley.
Oh,
So,
it's fastest until
or
it.
maybe I'm just I'm just over taxing my computer right now. Anyway, is going to show up
Yeah,
in a
you have
minute. I will
quite
show
a
that.
few tabs
Okay,
open there.
is is this him, Alex Ramos? Is
No,
that the same one?
no, it isn't.
Oh no. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. That
but
is fine.
I'll
I'm gonna wait
definitely,
for yours.
yeah, I'll definitely connect you with them.
Yeah, because one thing I usually joke is, I am maxed out at 30,000 connections.
Uh-huh.
So I think you and I we connected. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. But anyway, for me to connect with you, I had to disconnect with somebody else.
Ah,
So I sometimes joke that I am either connected to everybody who matters in cybersecurity and leadership and the military, or if I'm not directly connected to them, I'm only one person away.
yeah.
But
Well,
anyway,
I put
uh,
him on there on the comments,
oh,
so you'll have the
fantastic.
right one.
Very good.
He's
Awesome, awesome.
also an air he served in the Air Force. He's a light colonel,
Air Force, not
your
Navy.
rank as well on the Air Force side, but yeah.
Fantastic. Wow. Okay, that is quite amazing. Wow. Okay. Is there anything that you have watched that you would recommend people watch or listen? Maybe music, movies, or shows, or documentary, or anything like that?
Yeah, so I seldom invest my time on on that type of entertainment, uh, but I've been really looking at documentaries that explain the background behind uh, nations, right? So I don't
Mm,
know any specific one um, to suggest, but I do suggest that we get a little more educated on the backgrounds of things, and that will help us
wow.
really understand why things are happening. Because when you don't have a context to the happenings of today, you could be a little lost. But there are a lot of things that have been in the works for years, and you're only seeing the
Mm,
fruition of it today. But if you can get a hold of things in that regard, it could be beneficial for how you perceive what's happening, right? And
wow.
there's a gentleman by the name of Johnny Harris, right? He's not paying me, but he does great investigative journalist work, right? And if you
Wow.
like to really get into the background of things, he does a good job in presenting it.
Wow. Very cool. Yeah, I think I've seen him on YouTube, right?
Yeah, he's on YouTube.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I've seen. I believe he used to work for Vox, if I'm not mistaken, and then he started
Right. He was,
doing his own thing.
and then he's doing his own thing now. But yeah.
Wow, that is pretty amazing. Okay, and next question I have for you then is, what have you done that we should do? What is one action you have taken that has positively impacted your life? And by the way, this is the correct Alex Ramos, yes?
Yes, that's Alex. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure to follow him, and yeah, definitely
Hmm.
somebody people should know from Orlando, Florida, helping leaders
Yep.
build meaningful mission. There's nothing more important than that these days. Yeah. So something that you have done that you would encourage everybody else to do that has positively impacted your life.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've done that has impacted my life is, you know, seek more of the Lord. I cannot give you, if I give you anything else, it would be superficial. It would be
Hmm.
it would be something that you can get anywhere. Um, you can't get God anywhere, right? You can get him
Yes.
anytime, but you you have to get him. And so we are in times where, and I think that it's always been tumultuous. The world has always been tumultuous. That's
Hmm.
not changed. It's just the way things are being delivered. But in the midst of so much chaos, there is peace in the midst of storms, and that
Yes.
is God, right? I personally believe in Jesus Christ as my Savior, and that has made all the difference in my tumultuous life,
Wow.
whether it's internal or external. And He definitely brings peace to my world, and so I'm
Wow.
appreciative of that. If anything, I can suggest is that you seek God in one way or another.
Thank you so much for sharing, especially in this tumultuous time. I think it's definitely needed. So, what is one action you are thinking about taking that you think might positively impact your life?
I just started a publishing company. Imagine that. So
Yay!
just, I mean, literally today, I got the
Wow.
EIN for it. And
Awesome.
so, what I suggest, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of doing what you think you're afraid of. Go for it. And I'm going to tell you, Adriana Rosales is the reason why I'm going down this journey.
Hmm.
If it wasn't for her, she was an Air Force vet as well, right? She worked for the
Wow.
Space Force before it was Space Force,
Yes.
and she's been doing that. She's also a John Maxwell leader, and she's been doing that for a while. But you know, by God's grace and guidance, she led
Wow.
me to this. She
Let's
led me.
let's make sure to add a LinkedIn profile in this discussion too. Definitely somebody I would like to meet if we
Yeah,
don't already
definitely. I'm gonna tag her here,
connected. That's wonderful. Wow. But
and
this is really amazing how one person can impact the life of somebody else, sometimes even without realizing it.
yeah, she has made such an impact in both my wife's life and
Hmm.
my life in terms
Wow.
of this book journey.
Yes.
It was through her that we got exposed to being writers and authors, and
Hmm.
led to my wife not only collaborating on projects but making her own book, right? Releasing her
Wow.
own book.
Let's make sure to list those books also. I want to make sure we promote them.
Yeah, and so
Absolutely.
um I'll tag my wife on here as well.
Absolutely. Because when I do your friend in the spotlight this Friday, I want to make sure all of those books are listed so people can buy because we need minorities and women to become best-selling authors, not just best writers, but best-selling. It's very
Oh
important.
yeah, and she's done it. She did it with my wife. My wife, her first book was a best-selling book,
Wow.
and
Outstanding.
so yeah, so I'm going down that journey now, and that is the book that you see
Yes.
coming out in July, and
Hmm.
I'm excited about it, and don't know where it's going, right? But I
Yes.
do know that you can't be afraid. You can't be
Mm.
afraid. Just how we like to say, do it scared. Go
Yes.
ahead, do it scared.
Yes. And the book you are talking about is this one here. I showed it before. Let me see. Here we go. Yeah, I really don't know why my computer is so slow right now. It's usually
It,
faster
it may
than
be all the
the
tabs that
speed
are
of thought.
open. That's
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But
yeah.
anyway, but no, but this is great because we have a lot of again aspiring leader here listening to this podcast, and they have no idea where to start and what to do. And I think what you're doing is really giving them hope, right? Like you originally from Puerto Rico, coming to the US, getting into the Navy, and now you're gonna retiring as a senior chief, which is a huge, huge, huge deal. You have your own business, and now you're getting into publishing. So really, nothing is too big, right? And one thing I've really learned, part of the reason why some people have such little expectations, especially again when it comes to ethnic minorities, because they have never seen anything different, right? So they don't even know
Right.
that it is possible, right? That's
Exactly.
why I think it's so representation matters so much. Us having our very first, African American president, the one and only one who was not a white man, right there in the White House, that really makes it like, yeah, this is possible. It is a possibility. But prior to that, it's like, we don't even know what is possible or not. That one of my heroes, I don't know if it was one of yours, but General Colin Powell, I've read all of his book. It let me know, yeah, it's possible. You can be a flag officer in the U.S. Army, so it is possible. So that's why that matters so much. But what you're sharing is really really powerful. So in the same vein, then when you wake up in the morning, what is one problem you would like to solve?
Actually, when I wake up in the morning, I don't try to solve problems.
Okay.
The first thing I do is plant my face on the floor and thank God for this
Another day.
particular day, that
Yes.
particular day, right? I that is my humility moment.
Yes.
Get on
Yes.
the floor, face down, and thank him for one more day. After that,
Perfect.
then we start thinking about what kind of problems are there.
So maybe one kind of related to that then is, if you had one day and only one day to live,
Yeah.
what would you have liked your final contribution to be?
Depositing into my family.
Mm,
I can try to help people all over, but what I leave on this earth with my family is what's going to help everybody.
yes.
But shame on me if I'm helping everybody else and my family can't do it, right? So this is
Mm,
something that my wife always is reminding me about. You know, your family has to be able to do it when you're gone.
yes.
And what good was it that you helped all these other people
Hmm.
and your family can't? And so
Yes.
I'm mindful of that, even as I am stating it.
Wow, that is powerful. Because like you, I grew up in church too, and sometimes when you are related to minister, they spend so much time taking care of the church and other people, and just loving everybody else, but sometimes they don't really have that same energy and love for their own family. And that's definitely something we need to think about, the balance. Because if in my opinion, if you don't take care of your own home, you're not going to be good to anybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's part of that
that's
living
powerful.
in truth, right? It's part of that
Yes.
living in truth. If you're losing your family and you're saving the world, what did you
What good is
actually
it?
save?
Yes. Wow, that is very insightful, very, very powerful. I'm really glad I talked to you. I'm sorry, we are actually over an hour now, but if I can ask the seventh question. So we
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
toward the end. So how can myself and my audience of 30,000 connection and 34,000 followers, what can we do to add value to you? What
Yeah.
could we do
So
to make a difference?
right now, what you could do to make a difference is go to YouTube, go
Hmm.
to at DTLW podcast all together
Hmm.
and hit that subscribe button. I'm 50,
All right.
I'm 50 away from 1,000.
Wow, congratulations.
So it's a big milestone. After
Okay,
that,
it is so important. Can you put it in the comment right now? I'm gonna do this right now live. We we
yes.
are we are gonna take care of this now. Wow, this is awesome. And again,
And
everybody that is following me, please do this. This is super super important. And do you know there was a time where you couldn't broadcast on YouTube unless you had at least 1,000 followers?
yeah,
Can you believe that?
that's crazy.
That
But
must have changed very recently, because right now that we're on LinkedIn, I'm broadcasting on YouTube too, but I only have about 375,000. So I wanted to get to 1,000 so I could do this broadcasting thing. But now, for some reason, they are letting me do it. But wow, this is powerful. Thank you.
yeah,
So,
definitely. And so yeah, that's one thing that you could do to help me. And when we talk about things like YouTube and subscribers, it
Mm-hmm.
just allows us to continue to do the work of leadership because
Yes.
um, you know, developing the leader within sounds familiar because it's
Mm-hmm.
John
The book
Maxwell,
of John
right?
Maxwell. Yeah.
And my when my wife was the one that suggested, hey, why don't you just call it developing the leader within? I was like, well, I will. And so we did.
Oh,
And
DTL, developing the leader within.
yes, DTLW,
DTLW. Okay,
right.
got it. Got it. That makes sense.
And so we do this as coaches, as content creators on the leadership
Mm-hmm.
side to help all those that can't do it by getting coaching, right?
Yes.
And when we invest in gathering all these people to do interviews and things like that, it's with them in mind. It's with
Wow.
the people. Like today's episode was speak without fear, learning how to overcome the fear of public speaking.
That
There's a
is
lot of
beautiful.
leaders that don't know how to do that, and that video alone,
Yes.
25 minutes can get
Wow.
you enough information to get you over that fear hump and get you going as a person that can speak confidently. And so,
That is
when I
awesome.
say, "Hey, please subscribe," there's a
Yes.
there's a reason behind it, right?
Wow, this is beautiful. So here we are developing the leader within, and I'm gonna subscribe. So you have 952, so you're gonna have 953, and I am hoping by the end of today you're gonna have over 1,000. So come back and
Outstanding.
let us know. And as you can see, I am live right now with you.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
yeah, so after you guys subscribe to developing the leader within, then go to leadership and success with Coach Busy and subscribe to, because it does make a
It
difference
does.
on the impact how many people we reach. And of course, when your book comes out next month, no, maybe you should come back here, but we need to talk about it and promote it. Because again, for me, my wife has written books. I've written books in the past too, but sometimes you write a book, but it doesn't really go anywhere, right? I
Yeah.
really want it to become a bestseller. That's really how
Oh,
you
thank you.
change
Thank you. I'll
minds,
share the
have
information
a
with you.
huge impact. Wow, that is wonderful. Okay, uh, so we are gonna finish the show now. And very thank you for your time. I know we started a little bit late because I'm still trying to learn this technology with Restream. I used to do all of my podcasts with Ecamm. I know exactly how to use that. So Restream, I am still learning. But thank you for being so gracious with your time. So to finish now, what is the most rewarding aspect of your life experience so far?
My wife and children. That's the most rewarding. I
Well,
could get anything, and I have. I've gotten many things, right? I've gotten
yes.
awards that are inaugural, right? I just had one for the podcasting. Actually, two of my last awards for my podcast have been inaugural awards.
Wow.
So I had some in the Navy that were inaugural awards.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've been blessed, man. I cannot
That's
complain
wonderful.
for what I've received from my life on earth. But
That is
there is
powerful.
nothing on earth that can
Wow.
eclipse the honor of having my wife and children.
That is powerful. That reminds me of one of the definition of success by Papa Maxwell when he says, "So success is when the people you care about the most respect you the most." Something like that. When you get the respect and the love from your wife or your children, people you know the most because they know you. Because most people, they probably only know me when I come in on the podcast or YouTube, or I'm a commander in the Navy doing all of this thing. But when I come home, the person that my wife and my kids sees, if they can respect that person, I am successful, because that means a lot more than all of the accolade and anything I can do out there. Wow, powerful. Okay, three adjectives that describe you as a child or a teenager growing up.
Wow, I had a rough I had a rough childhood. um, um,
So what comes to mind? Don't think too hard. Just whatever comes to your head. Three adjective.
so hmm,
Because we're gonna do the same as an adult, so we're gonna see how different You are they are the same.
Let me see. I was thoughtful,
Thoughtful,
caring,
caring,
and humble. I think
humble.
that
Wow, that's wonderful.
I think
Okay,
those have been, and they've been with me all of my life.
so those would be the three that describe you as an adult as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, very good. And then the very, very last question, and we are done. What is one word that represents our shared experience in this podcast? So everything we've talked about, what word comes to mind that represents all of it?
Enlightening. I
Enlightening. I love
hope
that. I
that
love that.
by people listening, they have become enlightened in one way or another. You
That's
know,
powerful. Powerful. Yeah, mine would be insightful. Okay, thank you so much, Enrique. No, this is the first time we are actually talking face to face. It's like I've known you all of my life. We have so much in common, and I'm so glad you said yes. And you are the very first guest on the Leadership and Success podcast for season 4. So thank you so much for that. God bless you. And when your book is published again, I definitely want to see you again, and we're gonna try to promote your book and sell it like pancakes, right? Because
thank you.
we really need that. It's like, some of my mentors, like Tony Robbins, for example, he doesn't write books every year, but every time he writes a book, it's a #1 New York Times bestsellers.
Oh
Same
yeah.
thing with Papa John's. He's written more than 86, 89 books. Almost all of his books, right? Bestsellers. That's really what we need. That's how I think you make a huge impact, and you change the world, at least in some meaningful way. Okay. Any last word before we log off the podcast?
Yeah, and so this is the one I've written this book, or will be authoring this book in July, but it truly is a compilation of 20 Latino leaders that have come to share their stories. And so if you are of a minority and you want to get inspired by what could happen and could be, even though you start off in a rough beginning, these gentlemen are going to inspire you with their story. So what I love about this book is just that it's not just me telling my story, but 20 plus other men sharing theirs.
And the book is right there on the screen, Latinos 100, Leaving Our Legacy and Inspiring the Next Generation. Wow, that is very, very, very powerful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Enrique. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank
And
you.
for everybody else, until next time, this is Coach Busy. And I'm going to be back here on Wednesday with a special guest, Chris Robinson, the EVP for Maxwell Leadership. Until then, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to our channels and come back for more wisdom nuggets on how you may develop into a better leader and achieve greater levels of success. Leadership is the most critical skill. The world will always need leaders to lead others, deploy the next disruptive technology, or execute a business strategy. You may as well decide on counting yourself among the 21st century leaders. See you right here next time on the Leadership and Success